Hi, folks. Today is a very exciting day for me. I am interviewing one of my childhood idols, Christian Lindberg. For those of you who don't know who that is, he was one of the pioneers of classical soloistic trombone music. Really, really prolific with performing, but also these really, really high quality recordings, which is how I first heard of him. And before we get into that, I want to mention that he will be performing at the International Trombone Festival this summer, July 13th through the 16th in Conway, Arkansas. It's his first time back. Since 2003. So you really, really don't want to miss it. Click the link in the description. Mark off the dates now. If you can't make it out to Arkansas, there is an online streaming option as well. You don't want to miss it. So other than that, let's get into it. I'm very happy to welcome one of our featured guest artists at the International Trombone Festival. Again, that's July 13th through 16th at the University of Central Arkansas. Consumer artist, Christian Lindberg. Welcome.
Hello, thank you very much. Looking forward to this. It was like almost 20 years ago since I was there last time in Helsinki, 2003, I think it was, at an ITF. And I thought I really wanted to sort of blast off here. So I'm conducting the orchestra concert. Then I'm also doing a recital. There will be a little bit of Tchaikovsky, a little bit of my own pieces, and some solos, and then also a short ride on the motorbike, I think.
Oh, beautiful.
So that's gonna be a fun evening. And I'm doing something with the Boston Brass Quintet. And then I'm also working with the trombone octet from Indiana. And we're doing a world premiere, and I also will be in the all-star opening ensemble.
Yeah, big ensemble for the opening night with so many people. It'll be amazing. So you'll be busy.
I'll be very busy. Yeah, it's the fact that you have for almost 2 years. I mean, I was working every single week, basically. I was traveling for over 300 days a year. And then suddenly, you get into this lockdown for 24 months, I think it was.
Yeah.
A total lockdown. And I'm just so looking forward to meeting the audiences. So I thought, might as well play a lot.
Yeah. When was the last time that you were just home for a couple months? Before the lockdown?
Before the lockdown, my goodness, I would say 1995.
Wow. Yeah.
Of course I take holidays sometimes for a month or two, but I mean, this has been 2 years with maybe, I went to Taiwan for 2 conducting weeks, but that meant I had to sit for 2 weeks in a quarantine. So, I did that. I did Stockholm Philharmonic. I did Norrköping Symphony Orchestra. I did a couple of recitals with Roland Pentinen, but that was all in 24 months. So.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you do with all your time? You were given all of this time to just have to yourself. I'm sure the first couple months you were getting used to it, but did you have creative outlets? Did you write more? What were you up to?
First of all, I started a recording company. The European Gramophone. We have now released over 120 albums.
Wow.
So that was an amazing thing. Together with my manager, my companion, my very good friend, who is a great composer, also a very good recording engineer. He had a record company on his own before and had won some Grammys. We created this record company called European Gramophone. Every week we release a new album of different kinds. I mean, we have smaller ensembles. I built my own studio at my mansion here where I live when I bought a Steinway, the big D Steinway grand piano, so that Roland and I can record, and I can record Roland also. So that's what I did during the pandemic.
That's a passion project for sure.
And I must say, I practiced a lot.
fun to get
which
back
was,
to it.
yeah, it was because I used, when you travel and you conduct a lot, you compose a lot, there is, of course, I still played, so I practiced around 1 to 2 hours all the time on the road. But now it's like I had periods of practicing 4 hours a day, and I could also divide it over the whole day. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to take a break and then have time to come back to it. You almost get 2 practice days in one.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, let's go all the way back. What were you listening to when you were growing up? What were the records that you played over and over and over?
First of all, it was the Beatles. The Beatles were from when I was 6 years old. I had 8 vinyl albums, and I played them constantly. And then I bought more. Then I came into classical music, and I bought Schubert Unfinished Symphony, listened to that a lot. I remember I bought Beethoven 9. I listened to that a lot. I bought some recordings with Maurice André, which was fantastic. Mstislav Rostropovich, Schneiderhan, the violinist, Mozart violin concertos. Then, of course, what changed my life was Jack Teagarden.
Jack Teagarden was the pivotal moment. That's the sound you heard in your ears.
Yeah, before that was made me start to play the trombone. I didn't know anything about the trombone, basically. We started a Dixieland group when I was 17, and I heard him sing and play, and I was singing and playing his tunes in the band. I got really hooked on the trombone. I got a very good classical teacher, and after 1 year I got into the academy. After 2 years I was in the opera orchestra, won an audition to the opera orchestra, and then after 1 year then I left and went on my solo career at 20.
So you were only in the orchestra for 1 year?
Yeah.
Wow, and then and so when did you meet Roland in the conservatory, or?
Yes. I was going to go for a competition, and I heard rumors about this young genius who was 15 years old at that time. And I called him and said, I need someone to play with the piano with. Would you like to accompany me? And he said, yes. Okay, can we meet next week? Yes. That was all he said. Then he came in, and I gave him the score of Hindemith Trombone Sonata.
You gave him an easy one to start with.
And I said, this is very difficult. Can we? Yeah, let's try it, he said. And he completely sight-read it.
Wow.
Turning pages, played every note right, every note correct, 15 years old, And since that day, we've been best friends.
How much would you say his playing has actually molded what you do on the trombone?
It's been extremely important because the four first albums that I made
Hmm.
was with him. I don't know if I wouldn't have gone the same way anyway, but I mean, what
Sure.
we have done together has been enormous, and I've learned a lot from him. And also, I believe he's one of the greatest geniuses of our time. I mean, I've never heard anyone, and we're still recording, and we're still doing all these concerts. We're
Hmm.
going for a Japanese tour in 2 weeks now, and looking very much forward to that. That's a 40-year anniversary with him.
Wow. Wow. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
You made the transition and found this passion with writing, but also conducting. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you discovered that and what kind of artistic vision you have now diving into conducting as well?
Well, it was both of them was accidents.
Hmm.
Uh, I was actually already at 17 when I got so hooked with music. I studied composition and very seriously. And I wrote my first piece, a brass quintet. We played it through and I hated it and decided never, ever to write a piece again.
Hmm.
What I didn't understand that you can't play, you have to rehearse it many days before people play the way you want them to play.
Hmm.
But I was too young and I didn't realize that. Then at 39, Jan Sandström, who wrote the Motorbike Concerto, he said there was the chamber orchestra who wanted to commission a piece from him. And he said to me, Christian, you have premiered 67 trombone concertos now. It's time for you to write your own, because I know you have written many of the things already in those 66 trombone concertos.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I decided never ever to compose. Give it a try, he said, and I'll guide you through. And I wrote Araben. The day after, I had two commissions, very prestigious commissions. And since that day, I have been there's been a queue of pieces that I have to write.
Hmm.
Chicago Symphony, Rotterdam Philharmonic, Orchestra Milano, Verdi Milano, and Scottish Chamber Orchestra, Swedish, all you name it. I mean, I've written for all these orchestras. When it came to the conducting thing, it was a little bit similar, or it was a British orchestra called the Royal Northern Symphonia, Simon Rattle's first orchestra.
Hmm.
And I was a soloist with them. It was a very difficult piece. The conductor couldn't really do it. So I helped by moving and also rehearsing.
Yeah.
And then they said to me, you should be a conductor. And I said, no, I don't want to be a conductor. I really didn't want to be that, because it's not very easy job and not very rewarding in many ways. And then they talked me into it. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. In 3 years I come. There was a 97 and 2000 I came there. And I got a phenomenal review in the Guardian in London. And then I thought, okay, I'm probably fit for this. So I started then. And then since then I've been music director of 4 different orchestras, and I've conducted probably 300 orchestras around the world.
If you just weren't so good at it, they wouldn't have called you. So you keep
Yes.
stumbling into these things.
Yeah, that's how it was. But then there's of course a huge pressure when once
Of course.
you have to work so hard, and I worked extremely hard.
Hmm.
to be able to manage all these things. But I enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like, okay, I've done a bunch of that. I want to get more back into the playing side, or I've done a bunch of this. I want to get back into the directing side or composition. Or are you just juggling all three right now?
Well, the thing is that ever since I started with conducting and composing, I have been thinking, what should I choose? Because I felt, oh my God, I have to go one direction or the other. And eventually it came to the fact that I couldn't leave anything of it.
Hmm.
I couldn't, I just had to continue with all of it. And it made me work very, very, very hard. But also, it's been extremely enjoyable. I think they feed each other. But it requires me. I mean, like I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and not go to bed until 12 and just work constantly
Yeah, I can imagine.
most of the time. But I enjoy other things too, partying and other things.
Of course.
Yeah.
What is your like happy place to write and compose, and does it take you time to get into that headspace? Do you need a couple days to kind of clear your head, or can you do it on the road?
I can do it on the road.
You can.
It's a very good when you have, because I compose on the computer, and a very, very good time to compose is when I go into the taxi to the airport. That's usually like and go out in you go into the lounge before you go on the plane. You sit on the plane. There's so much dead time there.
Right.
And if you have really good earphones,
Hmm.
what I do then is immediately when I go into the taxi, I plug in, and it's like go into this, and I'm just in that world, and I can do a lot. And then when the taxi stops, I just switch off and I go on. So I'm lucky in that respect. I can do it like this.
That's great. Yeah, long flights, a
Yeah,
lot of time that you have back to,
yeah.
yeah.
And in fact, before I had the composition thing, it was unbearable. When you sit there and you
Hmm.
have to you watch movies, or what you sit and do nothing,
Hmm.
and it's so that's a very good time to do it. Whereas also, I mean, here I have my paradise here with 40,000 square meters by the sea. That's of course the best.
It's not the worst place to be quarantined for a couple of years.
No, it's not.
Good. Good. One of the albums that I would listen to nonstop growing up was the Criminal Trombone album,
Yeah.
and I'm so interested in when you were thinking about trying pieces from other instruments, if you were just kind of like tired with the trombone thing. It was all kind of the same thing for a very long time, and then all of a sudden it branched out. And I credit that album to us having a much more melodic voice on the trombone, and being able to play cello music and flute music, and the romances and stuff. So where did that come from, and the inspiration for that?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's a good question, because you know I was never particularly sort of hooked on any kind. I had no boundaries really. For me, jazz was the same as Beatles,
Hmm.
and playing trombone music on the trombone, or playing whatever on the trombone, was fine with me.
Hmm.
But when I did my original album, the first album, the Virtuoso Trombone, it was like there was so strict that how can I break through? The record company said, how do I do this? And he said, you have to do original music like Hindemith and Martin and
Hmm.
Berio.
Hmm.
So these had to be on there. And I said at the same time, yeah, but no one will really okay, they will listen to that, but a couple of trombone players, but trombone players are not very fond of those pieces either because they play them all the time.
Right.
So we had Schulich at least that
Mm-hmm.
I managed to sell to him, even if he didn't know what it was. And then, and then I insisted on having those 4 virtuosic pieces, Sharda's Flight of the Bumblebee and those. The record company producer said this is risky,
Mm-hmm.
to mix sort of music from transcribed music and everything, and but it turned out to be a good success. And then we did the second album, The Romantic Trombone, with basically original music. And then I started to feel I have to come out of the box here. I have to really do something. So we did the burlesque trombone with a couple of burlesque things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, let's go. Let's go. Criminal. Okay. I'm not allowed to transcribe here because the classical music mafia is going to say, oh, trombone, it doesn't fit the trombone. So let's call it the criminal trombone. And then I had free hands and I just picked the most beautiful music I knew.
It completely came across as your voice coming through, and you're being yourself, and it was a much more fearless moment, and growing up with that, knowing that is allowed,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I never lived in a world where that wasn't allowed, so yeah, very cool. Now, what about these days? What are you listening to now? What kind of inspires you? Are there young players? It doesn't have to be trombone.
Because I have a recording company, I'm not sitting
Sure.
editing. I listen all the time. It's like a constant listening. Like the last thing I listened to was the Roland Penttinen playing Mozart, and it's one of the most beautiful things you can listen to. But let's leave that aside because that's work. When I listen to something for relaxation,
Mm-hmm.
I would say I listen to a lot of Coltrane, Miles Davis, Chet Baker. Who else? Jill Evans, Bill Evans. It's like something that when I want to listen and be relaxed, the Beatles. I still listen to the Beatles.
Do you have any favorite Beatles songs that come to mind? I know there's so many.
Yeah, there's very many. And when I have She's Leaving Home, that's one. The Sgt. Pepper's album is for me the most fantastic, and Abbey Road, of course. And then, of course, I saw this beautiful Peter Jackson film with 8 hours Peter Jackson film,
Of course.
with Let It Be. And these things. So that's basically what I'm listening to, because all the other music I do all the time. But I'm extremely fascinated by Tchaikovsky and by Mozart and Schubert and Pettersson. Allan Pettersson is a Swedish composer who wrote 17 symphonies. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. What more can I say?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's amazing. From your record company now, is there anything that you would want people who are seeing this to go check out? Any standout artists or records that they should go see?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there. European Gramophone, they should go in. I would, at the moment, I would say there is a flute player called Tobias Caron, who I think is the greatest flutist on this earth, who just recorded 2 sonatas, violin sonatas for flute and piano. That would be amazing. We have a Mozart festival at the moment. We are going into a brass festival where we are doing. I wrote the trumpet concerto for Pacho Flores. I wrote a double concerto for trumpet, trombone, and orchestra, which I play with him also. They are out. They are about to be out on quite soon, and. Have the trombone concerto. We're doing a Tchaikovsky festival. We're doing a Schubert festival. So, I mean, there's so much going on.
You are very busy, huh? Wow. Amazing. Okay, so before we wrap it up, I just wanted to ask a couple more fun questions. So, do you have any performance like horror stories that come to mind? You've been performing for many, many years. I'm sure there's some things that have happened on stage that were not planned.
Absolutely. I remember I was going to play the motorbike concerto in Sevilla with the Malmö Symphony Orchestra and James the Priest. And it was on a tour. It was a Sunday. And I went straight down to the concert because we'd played it in Malmö already. I had this little opening in my gig bag.
Oh no!
And the mouthpiece fell out.
Okay.
So I came to Seville on a Sunday afternoon, having a concert in the evening without the mouthpiece. So what do? Well, the bass trombone player turned out to have one mouthpiece, which was drilled out. So I played the whole motorbike concerto on a bass trombone mouthpiece drilled out. And I didn't say anything to anyone. And then I asked James the Priest afterwards, the conductor, if he heard anything special tonight. And he said, no, I think it was better tonight. So there was one story. And then I did also, I remember once when I was running in, I have this motorbike, short ride on a motorbike, which I'm going to do in Conway too. And I always run in. And I have like 2 seconds to start to play. Uh-huh. And I ran in and I slipped. And the tape goes on, So I had to stand up, and I had this enormous pain in my back, and there was no way to stop. And then I have another story, which is also quite funny. I was playing a recital in Manchester with Roland Penttinen, and we were playing. First, we started with a Bach Gamba Sonata, I think. And then Roland was going to play a solo. I was going to play Stravinsky Firebird. We made an arrangement for Firebird. After the interval was Prokofiev, Romeo and Juliet. And we played the first piece. And I was ready to go to my room. And I put the trombone down on the floor. And this didn't stop applauding. So I put it down on the floor. Went out, took the applause again, and took it up. And apparently it went under the door. And I took it up, and the slide was like this.
Oh, no.
And it was totally broken. And I had 7. Roland was going to play a solo piece, and then I'm going to come out and do this Firebird. And there was a lot of people in the audience, a lot of trombone players. So I did what I could. I tried to bend it and tried everything to at least make it work. Came out on stage, started to play Firebird, like this. And in the middle of the piece, I realized I'm splitting every second note.
Yeah.
So I stopped and I said, I'm sorry, there was an accident here. Is there anyone in the audience that has a slide?
Yeah.
And because I was sure someone must have a trombone there, but there was no one.
Really?
So I had to finish the piece with a bad slide. I did. But then in the interval, there were 4 guys who went home to their... So I got 4 trombones to play the second half on Prokofiev on another slide.
Wow.
So it happens.
Yeah, right. Amazing. Wow. Unless there's anything else that you want to get to or promote?
I must say I'm looking so much forward to meeting all the fantastic trombone colleagues that will be there and spending time with them, hanging out with them, and also performing and listening to them. So
yeah, it'll be a bit of a homecoming, I think. You said 2003,
so, yes.
you know?
Yeah.
So this is great. If you want to hear more, definitely check out the links. Go to trombonefestival.net. Once again, that's July 13th through 16th at the University of Central Arkansas. Come out, hear Christian and everybody else. It's going to be a wonderful time. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
It was a fun talk. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Great to see you.
Well, there you have it. Oh my gosh. This was very strange for me because I have been in the trombone world as a very public figure, like it or not, for about a decade now. And I've met so many great trombonists, so many musicians far better in skill than I am. And for some reason, Christian and my paths never crossed. And I guess kind of have online today, but won't actually be in person until this summer. Again, July 13th through 16th in Conway, Arkansas. But yeah, it was kind of surreal. And I don't really get starstruck anymore, certainly not from trombone players. But this is as close as it was going to get. Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't, but I was saying lots of things were amazing in this interview. I didn't know what else to say. Yeah, so if you want to see me a little bit on my back foot, that was that. But he's a super nice guy and very charming. And he does these live streams for the European Gramophone record company. I think it must be Tuesdays or Wednesday. I'm not sure. Maybe Wednesdays. But you could check on the Facebook page for that. And they have like announcements for all of the new records coming out. It's really cool stuff. And to be honest, I didn't know very much about it before the interview, but in adding the clips and editing the interview, they put out a lot of freaking music and it's really, really good. So if you're into classical music in general and want to be a little bit more on the forefront of new stuff being released and recorded, good place to go. Anyway, that's that. It was a promo for the Trombone Festival, but a little bit indulgent for me to chat with one of my heroes. I remember listening to Concertino, the Ferdinand David concerto that my trombone private teacher gave me this recording of Christian Lindberg playing, and I was just that was my first mind-blown moment where I was just like, oh, that's what the trombone's supposed to sound like. So when I play, still to this day, in my ear is very much Christian Lindberg's sound. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, or if you're on the podcast, which by the way, if you want to hear the audio only version of these interviews and things, and very silly things in between, that's the See Bleezy Knows podcast on all the things. Thank you so much to the Patreon donors for making these videos possible. I could have put an interview out. It would have been uncut. It would have been a little bit boring, and instead I got to spend the time to edit it and edit in those cool clips of the music that he was talking about. That kind of stuff takes a lot of time, and so I can do that because of the Patreon donors. So thank you so much. Patreon.com/classical trombone if you want to help out as well. Other than that, find me on all the things at Classical Trombone throughout the week, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. And I'll be back with some new music probably next week. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Peace.